Welcome to Enthusiastic Women, the podcast, broadcasting from the worldwide headquarters of Enthusiastic Women Network, where we birth success every day. I'm Miss Shannon, joined by my good friends and counterparts, Miss Judy Carter. Hello, Judy. Also here today, Samantha Masalia. How are you, Samantha?
Hello, I am well.
I am glad that you guys are here. We have some good things to talk about. The world is continuing to be crazy, and we are going to enthusiastically talk about it today. So we're going to talk about in product displacement. We have an update on a previous product displacement product that we had discussed whether it was good for the world and whether it was a real thing. And it has turned out it is not. So we are going to cover that in product displacement. Then as we move into Did You See This? We have a conversation about Kim Kardashian West because she is studying to be a criminal lawyer. So we're going to talk about that. I know Judy has a lot to say about the Kardashians and Judy in general. And then in our this episode's edition of Does This Make Me Old? We are going to talk about the fashion distractions of the courtroom. So we are going to talk about basically some attire and some of our favorite scammers out there and how it was very important what they wore. So does that sound good, ladies?
Sounds great.
All right. So let's start with our first episode today. In our first part of today's Enthusiastic Women podcast, we are going to talk about product displacement. Today, product displacement is brought to you by Farrell Homeschooling. Product displacement, what we're going to talk about today is we, a couple of episodes ago, talked about a product that was called Vaev. Vaev, if you remember, was a tissue, a used tissue that was going for $80 that allegedly was going to help your immune system. Do you guys remember this when we talked about this?
You tear your muscles to become stronger. You learn to fall to become a dancer. You callous your fingers to become a musician. Why is your immune system any different? Introducing a tissue powered by the human body for the human body. This flu season, keep your immune system feeling like your immune system. Vaev.
Now, when Vaev came out, it caused quite the buzz across the whole media landscape. We talked about it. The morning news was talking about it. The Today Show was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it. And only a few of us, even included on this show, said, I think it's fake kind of thing. I think it's good. I thought it was a joke. And it has now turned out to be a joke, and not only a little bit of a joke, a brilliant joke. It was on the inaugural episode of a show called Control Room, which you can now see on Comedy Central. Mm-hmm. And so the dude who is in charge of this show, this comedian, Mickey Lepper, is fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm okay that it turned out that it was a joke is that the way that the show is set up is he basically has a very limited budget, and then he works with his, a bunch of his buddies to try and see if he can make something go viral. And so this was their inaugural episode, and as you can see, he was brilliant at it. And the thing that's really cool about watching the Comedy Central episode is that, one, I'm looking at this guy, and he's just this, typical, normal, mousy looking dude. But the fact that he was talking about how he called in all these favors with his friends that are actors and found out that you could, it doesn't cost much to, rent a conference room if you wanted to have a focus group and put all these things together. And the way that he was able to create the show as a social experiment, I thought was brilliant. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely brilliant. So I encourage people to go out there and actually watch Control Room on Comedy Central, and you can find it online. It's very easy to find.
And the reason why this was interesting to us is because he takes on the fake tissue, the fake used tissue.
Right.
Gag, if we want to call it.
Yes.
I watched not the whole episode, but the beginning part. He was particularly taking on Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. And then,
which is also one of our favorite sites to take on.
And another product called Live Water, which Live Water is a product where it's just water that's taken out of nature and not treated at all. And the whole thing is that you've heard people who don't like treated water because it has fluoride in it, and they say they have hormones that are going to affect women's birth cycles or anything like that, and they think that the government's controlling you with water. It's all this conspiracy theory stuff.
Right.
And it takes on a couple of and live water costs a lot of money.
Right.
It's very, very, very expensive. So part of his thing about creating the fake tissue was it had to cost a lot of money.
Right.
And it had to be really ridiculous, and it had to be around health, because a lot of the goop products are around health.
Yes.
They cost a lot of money. They have false claims, things like that. So it was really, really clever and really interesting.
I really enjoyed the part of Control Room where he was talking about how he did the focus group, and he had the people there, and he intentionally had the actors trying to show how gross this thing was, and that the fact that the people still were like, yep, because they wanted to believe in it.
Right.
And so it does make you, because we have this conversation, ladies, all the time when we are coming up with our spoof products, that on numerous occasions, before we actually launched the podcast, we came up with a product, and then one just as crazy pants as the one we made was found in the wild. And, and we'll send an email like, did you see this? Oh my gosh, the thing that we were going to make up isn't crazy enough. Somebody actually has something kind of like that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I thought it was very clever and really well done, and definitely hit the target of completely nuts but believable enough that people could think that this was real and would probably want to use it.
I do wonder about the sustainability of his particular show, though, because will people continue? Are we going to continue? Can you strike as effectively as Vaev did? Like, are we going to be able to have sustained hoax products like that get as much buzz as this one does?
I think he stands a good chance, because one thing that kind of terrified me throughout that entire episode was how easily led people are, not just the general public, but that happened with the press. He posed as a fake CEO of the company and did a long interview with Time magazine, and that reporter did rigorous journalistic
they did. I read that Time magazine article.
Yeah,
and they
she
tried
really hard. And then, there was still misinformation in it, which then fed other articles by other members of the media. So it just, it truly went viral. And so the media didn't catch it, and the focus group people didn't catch it. It was just one person after another who was fooled by this.
Right.
So I think from his perspective, in his world, he will be successful. I think he'll be able to keep doing this successfully. But for the rest of us living in the world of misinformation, it's kind of scary that I think it will continue to be successful.
True. Very, very true. Because you do eventually go, are we going to all, that old, there's a sucker born every minute. And, when you see something like this, that definitely can affect your health. It's something that you would just go, you don't think that's gross? And that people were so easily willing to buy into it and give significant amount of money.
Right.
Like, when is it? And I think it does go back into one of the things that we talk about Gwyneth Paltrow and those products and all the time is that no matter how many people debunk it, she just makes another. Well, not even her. There is just another one made.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. What do we think? So are we just behind the curve? Do we need to have our product line quicker? Do we need a product?
There's a market for it, right?
I think that I've always said this, and I don't mean. I mean somebody like him, and I think that I always have ideas. So I mean, if you're an idea person, I'll just come up with it. There'll always be people out there doing wacky things like the Gwyneth Paltrows of the world, and then there'll always be people like us who have good ideas on how to do satire.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to be worried about being late to anything if you're good at generating new ideas about things.
Right. Well,
I'm not worried.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they will continue to give us content.
No doubt. It's always content. There's always new ideas. So
every time we say we're not going to talk about Gwyneth Paltrow, she does something because she is a master of keeping herself in the news. We say that we're not going to talk about the Kardashians, and then they do something different. We're like, well, now you're right. I do want to talk about you and what you're doing.
I don't say I'm not going to talk about Kardashians. Not a rule I have.
So this particular product displacement, debunked, not real. But a lot of the ones that we will do in the future, still real. So
like Gwyneth Paltrow, it is going nowhere. I mean, it's not going away.
Not at all. Product Displacement today was brought to you by Vaev Tissues. I'm sorry. Product Displacement today was brought to you by Enthusiastic Women Online and Feral Homeschooling. We appreciate all of you buying our spoof products as well. And today, speaking on behalf of Feral Homeschooling, our CEO, Verbena Wackenfield.
Hello, I'm Verbena Wackenfield, founder and priestess and CEO of the Enthusiastic Woman Network and proud mother. Are you raising children? I'm sure you've asked yourself. What can a teacher tell you that the raccoon doesn't already know? The answer is nothing. That's why your children need to acquire knowledge in nature's classroom, the forest. And that's why I've created Feral Homeschooling, my educational program. Sign up today and you'll also receive a free Paleo Math Abacus. Paleo Math. Teach your children to calculate like the caveman did. Endorsed by my son, Barnabas.
Brought to you by Enthusiastic Women Online. We birth success.
Verbena's onto something.
She is. I mean, you need to get that product. We need to. It probably doesn't cost enough.
Well,
we should talk to
it's
Verbena.
like once you buy into it, there's a series. It's a pyramid.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Power in pyramids.
Today's edition of Did You See This? Did you see this? Sam, I believe you have this article in front of you. And so we all saw this one. Kim Kardashian West is studying to be a criminal lawyer. What?
Yes, she is. And as always, I'm going to start a Kardashian segment by confessing that I am a full-on Kardashian apologist. That's out in the open. So the story broke this week. Kim Kardashian is studying to become an attorney. She began last summer a 4-year apprenticeship with a law firm in San Francisco and plans to take the bar in 2022, which you can do in California. You don't have to necessarily go to college and get a law degree.
Right.
If you go through this apprenticeship and then take the bar and pass it. And this is not necessarily a new thing for Kim Kardashian. In the last couple of years, she's become very involved in some criminal cases. For example, she convinced President Trump to commute the sentence of Alice Johnson, who was a nonviolent first-time offender who was serving a life sentence for cocaine trafficking. And then she's been a member of a council at the White House, participating in a working group on pardons and clemencies.
Right.
So this has been a growing area of interest for Kim Kardashian.
I'm just glad that it's a growing area of interest for her, because most of her other growing areas of interest are one I'm like, this is doing no good for anyone other than making her continue to be rich. So I am all for Kim Kardashian West using her powers for good versus, I don't even want to say they're normally for evil. They're just normally for
money.
For self-indulgent reasons. You know,
here's the thing that really surprised me. I frankly wasn't even that surprised that Kim Kardashian wants to become an attorney. And of course, she's the daughter of a very famous attorney, Robert Kardashian.
Right.
What kind of surprised me is, or took me aback, I should say, is the amount of hate that has been expressed for this on Twitter.
Right.
Like the second the story broke, and since then, Twitter ain't happy with Kim Kardashian becoming an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about, most professions, prior to when there were schools, there were doctors, there were lawyers, there were architects. These are the history of professions. And it used to always be, how did you become a doctor? How did you become a lawyer? How did you become an architect? All these professions are older than the institutions which now accredit them to the path of either taking a bar exam or taking the licensing exam for becoming an architect or taking an exam becoming a doctor. You had to be an apprentice under somebody who did that. And then what's happened, and this is all happened in the 20th century, the 1900s, is the apprenticeships still could become a path to becoming any one of these professions, or you could choose to go to a university, and then when you got out of the university, you did, which doctors still do, which architects still do, and I think which lawyers maybe still do, or maybe you can just go straight into the bar exam. You do some of an apprenticeship, and then you can sit. So people are all weirded out, like, she's not going to university. No, I read this, and I also, full disclosure, we all do this Facebook chat where we prep for our show, and you guys were saying, oh, but this is privilege because not